Welcome to the first episode of the Super Stuff Roundup. It's not technically the first episode. We started at episode 65, but since the dub just started, which is bound to bring in a whole new bunch of fans wondering about the visuals, I figured I might as well start covering the ones I never did in video form. We're starting with the first 4 episodes today to catch up, but in the future I'll do my best to cover them individually, or at the very least I'll cover the ones that are really worth talking about on their own. So let's jump right in. Episode 1 was supervised by Yukihiro Kitano. If you're up to date with the series, you'll know that he's been responsible for some of the ugliest episodes of Super, yet episode 1 looks fine. Well, the reason for that comes down to 3 factors. Firstly, the key animator list is packed full of animators who are very good at sticking to the model sheets. Secondly, the chief animation supervisor Takeo Ide corrects a fair few scenes here, and lastly, Yukihiro Kitano doesn't actually do any key animation himself. As a result, we have a very uniform and polished episode, so uniform in fact that it's pretty much impossible to pick out anyone other than Takeo Ide, who you've seen already, and of course the legend from the original 3 Dragon Ball series, Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, who handles the final scene of the episode. His art looks very similar to the work he did in Resurrection F, in fact. This episode is pretty dialogue heavy, so that's really all that's worth noting. The snake fight was fine and potentially animated by Jin Inaba, but I can't say for sure, so let's head on to episode 2. This was supervised by Osamu Ishikawa. He sticks very close to the model sheets, though does tend to make characters look a lot younger. As a result, you kinda have to rely on context to pick him out, rather than just looking at a screen and going, yeah, that's him. Interestingly, this was the first episode of Super to be partially outsourced. This is where Studio One Pack made their debut on the series. They only provided 24 cuts, which is a pretty small number compared to the many hundreds and entire episodes that come later, so they don't exactly stand out. Going back to staff from Toei, there are 2 that stand out here. The first is Yuki Hayashi, who animates the scene between the weird minion-looking alien and the dinosaur. It's very nicely done, great fire effects, and the flip and impact are all really well executed. If you don't know, Hayashi was actually the guy who animated Vegeta vs Golden Frieza in the Resurrection F movie. Unfortunately, this remains the only thing he's done for Super, as of episode 75 at least. Next is the debut of Naoki Tate, who would go on to be a regular supervisor leading some of the major fights in the series. He's the top credited key animator on this episode, so presumably he did quite a lot, as Toei do tend to order their credits by the number of cuts done. The scene that is definitely him is the ending fight between Beerus and the now transformed minion monster. You can see his typical impact frames, his distinctive smoke, and of course the fire effects that are as Tate as they come. A long time ago I had credited the rotating ship scene to him, as some of the water effects reminded me of his work, but coming back to it, it's almost certainly not him. And while those water effects are definitely similar, now that I'm more intimately familiar with his timing, it just doesn't seem like his work, even taking corrections into account. Whoever it is though did a great job. Vehicle animation is not easy, so props to them. This was a solid episode on all fronts, and really I had and still have no complaints. So let's move on to episode 3, where we meet someone who is critical in keeping Super's production alive. This is Yoshitaka Yoshima's debut. Yoshima is a solo animator, which means his specialty is drawing an episode from start to finish on his own. This is especially helpful in long-running shows, as it takes a lot of pressure off of the production, allowing other animators to work ahead. Because it's just one guy drawing stuff, and especially on a schedule like Super's, you're rarely going to get mind-blowing visuals. In this instance, things look quite nice compared to some of the episodes later down the line where Yoshima's controversial style rears its head. This is thanks to Satsuki Aizu, who is the second key animator here. Second key animators sort of defeat the point of a solo episode, but considering Super's schedule at this point, it's not too surprising that someone's here to clean things up. Like most solo episodes, this is very dialogue heavy, so outside of those details, there's not masses to discuss. On to episode 4 then. This is Seizo Toma's first episode, and he definitely makes his mark. Sort of. From the very get-go, the incredibly thick line art stands out, which everyone now associates with Toma, to the point where every time any weighted line art shows up in the show, people think it's him. Just because I'm tired of being asked, thick line art is not exclusive to Toma. Okay, moving on. The reason I say sort of with regards to him making his mark here is that while the line art and wonderful expressions are very him, the character art for the most part is not. Miyako Tsuji, one of the chief animation supervisors on the show, makes her mark here too. Despite supervising Ishikawa on episode 2, she didn't really feel the need to correct anything, so here's the first time that we really see her. She pretty much dominates the episode, even retaining Toma's line art with her own work. This meant that by the time a Toma episode rolled around where he was unfiltered, a lot of us were wondering why his style changed so drastically. Turns out it didn't. In fact, you can see his regular style in a couple of scenes here anyway. Thick eyebrows on the women in particular, along with very long angular ears on everyone else. It's a shame that this remains the only episode where Toma's thick lines have made an appearance, but I guess it's less jarring when it's attached to a comedy episode rather than popping up in the middle of an arc. Not that I complain either way, but you know how people get when things look different. So that's it for episodes 1 to 4. These appear to be the only episodes they had done prior to Super beginning. That theory is based on two facts, the first being that only footage from 1 to 4 was used in the initial previews of the show, and secondly, of course, next week, everything is about to crumble and the show will see some significant ups and downs for quite a long time. If you want the full details on that, you can check out my Super Production Issues Explained video, or you can wait for my video on episode 5 as a whole coming in the next few days. But that's it, let me know how you felt about these initial episodes in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for the latest info on Super's production, and I will see you next time.